Let's start with what is Ripple before we talk about it.
All right, good. And there you have it. We are live. Welcome to the Daily Take on the Take Detroit Network. I am one of your co-hosts, Godwin, along with
Brandon Colvin. Welcome.
And this is a show where we have interesting conversations with interesting people as we review interesting products. Our guests today are from the wonderful Ripple. We've been having the great opportunity to get Justin and Rachel.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
So why don't we get into it?
Let's do it.
All right.
What is Ripple?
Oh, Rach, take it.
So Ripple is the OG of water-soluble THC. So we are the only clinically proven fast-acting THC on the market today. All of our products have a quick onset, 5 to 10 minutes, full peak at 30. 7 years proven success in Colorado. And now we're about to take over Michigan.
7 years. It was 2017, 2016?
2000 launched. Yeah.
So when did Colorado start getting big? When did everyone started rushing to Colorado? Like, when did that start happening?
I mean, Colorado went rec legal January 1st, 2014.
Okay, so two years after it went rec.
So it took us, I'm a co-founder of the company, and we started first investigating this whole thing towards the end of 2013 as Colorado was gearing up to go rec legal.
How many co-founders are there?
There are 3 of us. So Jeremy and Missy, my 2 co-founders, both still with the company.
And 2 are from actually Metro Detroit.
Missy and I
we got
go
roots
back
here
for years here. Grew up around here.
But you all started in Colorado.
So we launched in Colorado. You know, it was 2014. Where are you going to go if you want to do legal marijuana? You had 2 options at that point, realistically.
So why not California?
You know, we looked at California a lot, and we were actually very close to going there. And what happened was the guy that we were going to work with got raided by the police the week before, and this was the most legit person in California. And he was raided because somebody stood outside of his facility and called the police and said, "I smell pot here." And this is the problem with California, was they didn't actually have a legal program at that time. It was just tolerated. So we wanted to do a lot of heavy R&D. We wanted to bring in food scientists. We wanted to understand what was going on with cannabinoids and how are you going to put them into food. And the only way to make an investment like that responsibly is in a state that was going to stand between you and the federal government. So that was in 2014. You had to go to Colorado.
Not a good investment strategy if the feds are.
It's a risk. That is the nature of risk. It can go.
What are you in when you're and give us a ballpark? You don't have to be accurate, but what are you in investment around that time, as a startup?
How much did we put in? How much?
Yeah, when I first started a restaurant, for example, your average restaurant is going to cost somewhere between $250,000 and $650,000, depending on the type of equipment, what you're going to have to do if you got to buy the building, things like that. But I imagine for
marijuana is expensive, especially if you're doing it right. You're doing it with regulation. We had to, in Colorado, we had to have our own facility, and Colorado's laws were so crazy when we got in there with zoning and all the shit that went into what could get a license. You couldn't get anything that a bank owned the building. You had to find a building that was outright owned. It had to be in a municipality that was allowing marijuana, because everybody thinks state legalization is it, but really it's local. It's municipal, as Detroit is figuring out here. They will destroy you. Yeah. So we had actually, it took us a year to find a building. We turned into the most data hungry real estate broker on earth. I was scraping municipal databases for every single property that was available and met our requirements. And I was sending those out to landlord or to brokers and being get one of these for sale to me. The first one who finds this, gets a bounty.
You're an attorney also.
Never practiced, but yeah, I got a law degree.
You have a law degree.
My grandmother's very proud.
So we spoke a little bit off camera about your background and how you came into the industry. And I want to know the same for you as well, Rachel. Can you all both speak to how you all came to this point? You as a founder, and Rachel, you as lead
sales director
here in Michigan.
Yeah, sales director. I come out of venture capital. I have a JD MBA from Columbia. I went to Michigan in undergrad. I was in the business school there, and public high schools here growing up. But I ended up in a venture capital firm in New York City that was focused on big data. So we were investing in companies like the Trade Desk and Datadog and DigitalOcean and TransferWise. And then I was teaching entrepreneurship at Columbia Engineering School, and was just really, I was really interested in regulation and frankly marijuana. Like, I was never a drinker. My house was just a sober home. And marijuana was the drug that I liked and never really understood the animus.
We'll call it medicine.
Yeah.
The medicine, your preferred medicine.
It was my preferred medicine. So as Colorado was gearing up to go legal, it was like, this is fascinating. How do you take something that has been in the black market, that has not been developed, because development costs money, development takes time, it requires insurance, it requires equipment, things that were just not available. But what's going to happen when you throw all that shit at something that's already one of the top 2 or 3 most consumed substances on the planet? The bet was a hell of a lot. And that was what brought us in here, is what can you do with this? And, I think I'm a smoker. It is part of my habits from growing up. That is how I learned to use pot. I learned to smoke weed. I learned to roll joints. It was part of everything. My kid, God bless him. I've got a 4-year-old. I hope to God he doesn't consume THC until his brain is fully developed. He's 25. If I could go back and tell myself that would be something I'd say. But I hope also he doesn't smoke anything as he gets older. And I don't think the world is making more smokers. So this was really interesting to us. Was hey, if the world is moving towards edibles, how do we make edibles better than brownies? And that was a real push for us in building this company.
So your grandmother was diabetic, right?
Yes. So and this was, we were looking at the space. How do we do this? And what really caught us off was my grandmother asked me for a pot brownie one day. She knew I was looking around cannabis and was thinking about this.
Your grandmother, give us some context.
Yeah.
Your grandma asked you for a pot brownie.
She did. And it sounds crazy. It's even crazier if you know her. She's
pretty conservative.
She is conservative. She is diabetic. She is somebody who takes an aspirin. She is I am not a drug user.
Right.
And so when she asked me this, I was like, what's going on? What? And she's like, look, I've got a bunch of friends who are, she was 92 at this point. She's like, I got a bunch of friends. Aging sucks. I just, every day I hurt. And my friends are telling me they're smoking pot and it's helping them feel better. And I'm not going to smoke a thing, so don't bother giving me a joint. She's like, what I need is something that I can eat. And I'm like, okay, I don't really know where to go with this, but I was like, when a 92-year-old woman asks for you for a pot brownie, you move heaven and earth to give her a pot brownie.
Especially if it's your OG.
It's your granny.
Yeah, it's your granny. You do what she asks. And but all I could find her, I had a great friend from law school who had gone past corporate law and ended up in Joshua Tree as a baker in California. And it's a great career progression. And she sent me this brownie of hers that was 100 milligrams. At least that was what it was listed. Got the testing at the time. Who knows what it really was? This was 2014. Crazy. And for her, that wasn't going to work. So
maybe a bit much for grandma.
That and look, this is a woman who had never been high, obviously. Was terrified of the idea of being high. She wanted to feel better. She didn't want to be high. Stoned scared her. And so I took that brownie, cut it up into 20 pieces, individually bagged them, handed it to her. It was eat half a morsel, wait 2 ingredient, same way as caffeine, we said. So what do you do with that? What's a functional product that doesn't have fat, doesn't have calories, doesn't have sugar, works for diabetics, and doesn't make people think they're using a drug? Tea. That was where we went with it. So our first product was actually Stillwater tea, and that was
Stillwater tea.
Stillwater tea. It's great. Still love it.
I'm curious on the name Stillwater. Is that also just something you came up
off
with?
the cuff? Yeah. It's funny. We did the whole thing is you tell people in business, you do naming exercises and what are your associations and all of these good structures. And we did all that and we hated everything that came out of it. But we also gave ourselves deadlines. We were we have to go to print. We have to move forward with this. And so the day before, I was sitting up just looking at the catalogs of Bob Dylan and Daniel Lenoir, like a bunch of people who are like known for having more like rhythmic and lyrical and like song names. And this song Stillwater by Daniel Lenoir came up, and we were like, okay, like this checks a lot of boxes, like real
That's
words.
such a wonderful way to come up with a company name.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of dig
I didn't
into the
even
well
know
of
that.
inspiration.
Yeah.
That's rad.
Yeah.
But, this is a good segue for you, Rachel.
Yeah.
What was your entry point into?
Yeah. So, like Justin's grandma, not 92, but my body as an athlete, I'm a soccer player. Sometimes I feel like a 92-year-old woman. And so I've always consumed cannabis as an athlete. And but I have a very, very traditional CPG and Fortune 500 background. So I worked for Ford Motor Company, Coca-Cola, General Motors, Red Bull, So for me, it's like I was looking for the new frontier, and cannabis is absolutely, we are flying the plane as we're building it, and there is no other industry that is as quick moving and crazy as cannabis. Can't see myself doing anything else. So yeah, I was consulting for some CPG brands and saw Stillwater Ripple was coming to Michigan. I was looking at them more as a competitor because that's what the cannabis company.
You're being proactive. Uh-huh.
I looked up more about how they put function first. They're clinically proven. They're founded in science. They use cannabinoids as an ingredient. The rest is kind of history. Yeah.
We are
What?
so
And
happy.
this question is kind of, it's directed to you first, but I would like for you to jump in on the Colorado side. So for you, Rachel, what is the difference between your corporate experience, your non-cannabis corporate experience, and your cannabis corporate experience? And for you, Justin, what would you say from an executive level is the difference between working in Colorado versus working in Michigan?
That's a great question. I would say first and foremost, I think there's more similarities than there are differences. And I think the faster this industry can kind of understand that, I think the more successful we'll be. You look at a lot of provisioning centers or dispensaries, even 3 years ago, how they operated is very different than how they operate today. So a lot of these chains are starting to operate as a group rather than a bunch of individual stores that have their own mind and body. You're seeing a lot of like-mindedness starting to happen in the industry, which is great. Marketing, right? You're seeing a lot of the things that helped build CPG brands. They're applying those same principles to cannabis. And why shouldn't they, right? It is... there's so, and when people say, wow, is cannabis so different? I'm like, no, I think there's definitely more similarities than we'd like to admit sometimes,
And it's
because
so
there's a
interesting. It's
stigma
a crop.
like corporate and there's chads and no, I think if we genuinely all are trying to move the industry forward, which I hope we are, it shouldn't matter what your background is as long as you're here for the cause. And we like to think that we try to do things as often as we can the right time, the right way. And I think the more people that operate that way, the more we'll push the industry forward.
I mean,
It does seem like a lot more are adopting that model. We had Quality Roots on here
Great
recently.
operators.
Yep, and they operate as if they were a toy store. I remember first going to them. You could only get their products based off of predetermined measurements. So they even had inventory system management in place, which was novel considering most of the time those places never open past 9 a.m. On a given day. Are we going to ask?
Oh, well, I was going to ask a follow-up.
Yeah.
The differences between Colorado and Michigan. So, as you said, Rachel, is it as Rachel said, there may be more similarities than there are differences?
more similarities than differences. There are like Colorado is unique in this country. Like it was the first legal market. So like, and it was all medical early and it flipped over into recreational and nobody knew what to do. Like a lot of the states now have benefited from seeing what Colorado did. And you look at like Michigan regulations, they're very much based on Colorado. And like for better or worse sometimes, like Colorado is flying blind. And like I've got to give that the governor at the time, John Hickenlooper, full credit. Because like he was somebody who disagreed with legalization and he still saw his role as governor to make it effective when it went in. It's like, this is the will of the people. I got to do this intelligently. And he did. He put smart people in place who were really caring about the regulatory structure, that were caring about packaging, all of the laws. Did they get things wrong? Absolutely. Do the operators get things right and wrong? Yeah, absolutely. But like, it was a good faith state in everything they were doing, and they really were trying to say like, hey, let's treat it like alcohol. Let's see what this actually looks. Now, it's hard to get there from where you start, and I think Michigan has done a much better job here, because Michigan, Colorado goes first, and then Michigan and other states get to jump forward because they don't have the fear.
They have the benefit of seeing the missteps of.
They see the missteps, and like a lot of the arguments that can sway regulators in the abstract when you have no data, like in Colorado, don't work in a state like Michigan 4 years, 5 years later, when people have seen that it's not creating the problems. Other things that are different in Michigan, I think Michigan is really good retail operators. I think a lot more people in Michigan came from retail before they got into marijuana. They were already retail operators. I think Colorado, because of the history of it, you had probably more people who were countercultural. Like this, it wasn't necessarily retail, it was more marijuana. Yeah. And like here, I think it's sort of a good overlap of people.
It's a really fine distinction to make too. Yeah. And I imagine that it makes a huge difference in the business base.
The business base, how you think about your business, things like discounting. Like, how do you think in terms of like?
It probably also margin affects your supply chain and logistics across the network as well.
Yep. And Michigan, I think as Colorado, when it originally started, there was a requirement that 70% of all product had to be sourced from your own grow for the first 9 to 12 months there, which was enforced vertical integration. So the product markets didn't come up nearly as fast as they did as they have in Michigan. It's more of a tiered system.
That's a lot of work on the front end if you're trying to get started.
Well, it was because at the very beginning, when it was medical, everyone was required to be vertically integrated because people didn't even know. So when we got our license in Colorado, we were the first licensee at Commerce City, and we were the first processor that anybody had seen that wasn't extracting. Nobody knew what to do with us. We had to walk everybody from the state, from the city, through what we were doing in our facility, and they would come in, they'd be like, "Where's the extractor going?" And we're like, "There's no extractor, guys."
So y'all were a little unicorn.
Yeah. Weird marijuana company. We were focused. We didn't want to do cultivation and extraction and retailing. We just wanted to do everything between the extract and the consumer that was going to be ingested.
And it seems like that's kind of a part of you all's identity as a company, as an organization. Rachel, when we were talking off camera, you made a difference between you all and other companies in that other companies might have extraction in this corner of their facility and a grow in that corner. And can you speak more about the difference between you all's high level of focus on your product in an industry where brand often seems to trump product itself? And I'd love to hear you. We talked about that also, Justin.
Yeah, I'm going to take one of Justin's quotes. We are a food company that uses cannabinoids as our main ingredient. That's something that we preach to the market rather than being a cannabis company that happens to dabble in food. We have food grade facilities that we're incredibly proud of that. Honestly, I haven't seen anything like it, at least not in Michigan. If the FDA if we were to go federal tomorrow, we would pass.
If we were to go federal tomorrow, we wouldn't have to change a thing about how we operate. That's been a key watchword from us from the beginning. We wouldn't have to change our formulations. We would be acceptable into Whole Foods and Kroger on the clean label programs. We declare everything that we do is set up to be sold in the existing federally regulated supply chain, even though those regulations don't apply to us today.
Wow. That's a very amazing way to do it.
Well, we do it because it's the right thing to do. Not because we have to, because it's the right thing to do. And we really try to operate in so many of our different...
Yeah, there's a lot of shortcuts to be taken.
Playing the
you
long
can absolutely
game.
take it. This is another thing when we talked about why we didn't go to California. We were also of the opinion that hey, you could go to California and make a lot of money, but you're not going to learn how to operate in a regulated market. And standing where we were in 2014, it was pretty obvious these were going to be regulated markets. And it really worked. You got to build that muscle if you're going to have staying power.
Y'all exist in a pretty rarefied air in that regard, because there are a lot of companies in the cannabis space that are trying to kind of have their hands in everything. And what they come out
try to be like a edible maker and all this other stuff.
And concentrates.
There's a lot of Warren Buffetts of weed who don't know who Warren Buffett is, but still will tell you that.
That's
So,
hilarious.
on a lighter note,
Yeah.
we had a little bit of discussion off camera about how interesting the two of you are outside of the cannabis space. So, Rachel, you have some musical talent that's pretty.
I don't know if I'd say talent. I would, but
I don't know now. I mean,
You might be able to get on. You got talent. You
Yeah,
know,
for real. America's Got Talent.
I don't have the talent of reading music, but I do have the talent by playing by ear,
That's
or
kind of a big
learning
deal.
by ear. And at a very young age, I taught myself how to play songs on a touchtone telephone. I'm aging myself. Touchtone telephones. Anyone born in the 90s would be like, "What's that?"
What's the touchstone?
Well,
I've had to explain what is a dial-up modem to so many students. It's amazing.
yeah,
They don't
no one
even know
knows
the
what that
sound.
sound
No.
I don't know
is,
the
right?
struggle,
Yeah.
bro.
Where your parents
if
being
your
like,
parents
"You're
got a
grounded."
call?
You're like, "You don't hear it. You don't hear it." Ching, 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 bing, bing, bing. Yeah, those days are gone. But yeah, that's a little fun fact.
Wait, you leaving out the best part that you told us earlier.
Yeah.
I thought I heard you say that you could do a Beethoven composition on the
Yeah,
on
Ode
the
to
touchtone
Joy.
phone.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
How long did it
369-632-1232.
How long did it take you to do that? Like
Honestly, 5 minutes.
Closer.
5 minutes?
5 minutes. But here's the thing, because I don't repeat this. We are repeating this. In middle school, I played the viola, and I again learned by ear. And when it came time to go to high school, they put sheet music in front of us that we had never seen before.
Wait, you're just ripping this off the drum line.
I've never seen Drumline.
Okay.
Is that what happened?
That's basically
Oh
what
my god!
Wait, what?
I've never seen.
Oh,
yeah.
Are you saying I could
He
have sold
totally
my
couldn't read.
story to Hollywood? Oh my god!
It ain't too late.
So I got sheet music put in front of me. I didn't know this. I literally would have been like last chair, and then I focused on soccer. So because I couldn't read music, I became a soccer player, and I still am.
The story of a
bad
woman who
segue.
couldn't read
Yeah.
music became a soccer prodigy and is now a cannabis
Now with
professional.
cannabis, we're a bunch of misfits. If you haven't figured that out, the more people you talk to in cannabis, we're kind of a bunch of highly efficient misfits.
We're the island of misfits.
Bro,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
exactly what I was thinking. I was like, is cannabis like low key the island of misfit toys?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So speaking of
Motley
misfit,
Crue's getting in there.
speaking of misfit toys, sir, you have like a hacker, literal and figurative connection that predates your work in the cannabis industry.
I do. I was at a venture capital firm that was working on big data, and like the first two people that we funded were members of the hacking crew from the movie Hackers. And,
Yeah,
like,
see, you're also dating yourself. When did Hackers come out? Like 94?
96, 97?
64, but like, look, I don't care about dating. This was the guy who, the first guy I talked to who was part of that crew who like was building a supercomputer for cyber protection. He was also the first person the FBI ever laid a data tap on or a wiretap on for data.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah. Like,
And you met this gentleman and were working with this gentleman at how old were you?
oh God, I was like 24, 25. And like my first task as an intern at this VC fund was to go pick him up at his apartment in Queens and the supercomputer that he had built and drive it into downtown Manhattan to put it at a co-location facility.
Talk about high pressure.
Right,
Yeah, this
right.
thing was like, this is before crypto. So like GPUs were like not well known. And this guy had like built a whole tower of GPUs to be doing like highly parallel processing. He designed a whole programming language around this. Like it was terrifying. I was an intern. Like this thing, like I was like, this is a company in a box. If I drop this on the sidewalk, like
Yeah, you finished, bro.
This may be
Got a code?
no,
Justin can code too.
I code light.
you code like language?
No, you can literally tell him like build a model of da 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 da. And he's like, give me 5.
I do business.
That's really
That's-
impressive.
Telling
Yeah.
you.
That's not a bad skill
He's
set
your
to
phone a
have.
friend, guys. He's your phone a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're everyone who wants to be a
You're in
millionaire.
jail.
This
You
is
need to
the
get
guy.
out. He got you.
Now you're
You
dating
need to
yourself.
hack into
50.
something. He has you. You know.
Well, I'm curious. I never had the opportunity to talk to a venture capitalist right in front of me, such as yourself. So, what is that like? Do you start off as a venture capitalist, or do you get a bunch of
Good
money,
ass question.
And now you a venture capitalist? Or
No, I mean you
had
start
an
off as somebody's
internship?
bitch. Is kind no, like you.
No, keep it real.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like when you're a young kid or like a new person in VC, like
24-year-old Justin.
yeah, like your job is to do research. Your job is to go out and meet people. Your job is to read a bunch. Your job is to take a bunch of meetings that nobody else wants to take, to hear what everybody has to say and to like wade through it. I think like a lot of people interpret that as like a license to be a dick, which is very unfortunate because like it's actually kind of interesting when you really dig into it. Like we were doing, this was 2009, 2010 in New York City. Like there were venture capital. Like when I started in business school, I never heard the term venture capital. Like Facebook was brand new. Like nobody knew what this shit was. And I had like looked at strategy consulting, like that was the thing. But like somebody was wise enough to tell me like I had no business being in client services, was just going to offend everybody I spoke with. So venture capital seemed like a much better place to go.
Wait. Why did they say that?
I am less than polite to people.
You're a little bit too blunt.
I'm a little bit too blunt for when somebody is paying you to consult for them.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of ass. Yeah.
There's a lot of ass kissing required.
Sometimes you need to get that good medicine shot, though.
Yeah. Look, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It just wasn't something I was good at.
Yeah. They'll take it because it tastes good.
No, but yeah, venture capital, it was fun. Like I was investigating things like numerical weather prediction. Like this was like before Superstorm Sandy. It was like, could you find ways with supercomputers to actually predict what and like everybody gives shit to weathermen for like, because Miami, 50% chance of rain every day, but the weather has actually gotten really good at being predicted.
So you were doing this because your venture capital firm was considering investing in a weather startup? Or
they were open to it. Like we were doing big data. So we were looking for things that was very data intensive. Yeah, we were like, hey, there's this was when GPUs were coming up. We're like this new computing infrastructure that allows for massively parallel processing. So like, what is that going to enable? And that's been like a big watchword with us here is like I said, like we got new innovation. We got the opportunity to look at like cannabinoids. What's that going to enable? What can you do with it? Like everything is a new tool with it. So that was what we were looking for.
Well, let's talk about something that you've already done. We had a little bit of product demo off camera. So when we talk about what are you going to do with your tech, let's do a little something with some Ripple tech right now.
Sure. Well, now we're getting all QVC with it.
Yeah,
I
we
like
are
it.
getting a little QVC style.
Can we get this? Like, there we go.
Yeah. So, all right, tell us exactly which product this is here.
So this Ripple Quick Dissolves. Here, we'll put this out nice and easy. So this is our most popular product. This is the OG. It is about a little less than half a gram, just dissolvable powder. Dissolves instantly. And what we got here is a glass of or a bottle of ice cold water. You can see by all the nice sweat on the side of it. That's going to obscure how cool this is.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a fresh cold water.
Nice. So this is 10 milligrams.
10 milligrams of THC, no sugar, no fat, and straight in.
Gluten-free.
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 Now,
drop straight in, instant dissolve.
Instant dissolve. Now, is water the only place I can put this packet?
Nah, man. Whatever.
Coney dog.
On the Coney dog.
Yeah, we do have a little.
Yeah. You can put it on
that, but
dog because of Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, it was a non-Detroit art director who made it, but like she did her absolute best here. But you can make anything inedible. That is the key thing. Like whatever beverage you want, whatever food you want, it's inedible now. You want to make that Vernors edible, it's
in 10 minutes.
So this is like an instant edible powder.
Yes. You want to bake with it, like, and do your dosing. You want to make 10 cookies, put in 10 Ripple packets into your wet ingredients.
In a very predictable way. I think that's a big thing. Like, you're not making
you can
oil or butter. It's like, how discreet is that? You know, it can fit in your back pocket. It can fit in your hat. And
yeah.
Like, you're good to go.
You incorporate it.
You take it to a game.
Hell yeah. Like
yeah.
this is the portable, convenient, discreet edible. Like you want to keep it going. Like you don't want to show up at a party with your parent, or you don't want to show up at Thanksgiving smelling like pot. Like
what
does
one of these go for retail?
Retail anywhere from $12 to $15, $12 to $15, depending on the retailer.
Do you guys determine that, or is that up to your partners?
No, everyone pays the same wholesale, so that's really up to the operator. I think it varies a little bit market to market as well. But But yeah, if you check out one of our vendor days, oftentimes we're, half off. We do a lot of great deals.
Now, if a consumer uses this particular product, this is the pure,
Yep.
and it doesn't have a taste.
No.
So I can put it in my water, and I think you mentioned it tastes like mineral water.
Yeah, worst case scenario is mineral water.
And what if I am a light smoker? Is this going to take me out of commission for the day? Are my eyes going to be red? Like, what are the effects going to be?
You are like the person we're trying to talk with, because it is more of a smoker's high.
I think not necessarily light, like control, like people who are like trying to control their experience. Like if you want
pleasant.
Yeah. If you want to get fucked up, this product will get you fucked up. If you want to just have a nice convenience high that you can go to a party just fine, this will do that for you. Our 5 milligram dose is every parent's favorite dose, because you can take it before the school play, enjoy the school play, and interact with the parents afterwards.
But remember the school play.
And remember the school play. That's the big part too.
It's control. Like it is. It's for high functioning adults, for the responsibly irresponsible. Like these are the ways we think about this.
And you have some other products that you all brought with us. Tell us about the rest of your all's product line, Everett.
Yeah, so we found that people in Colorado would take our OG Quick Dissolve and put it right on their tongue, and because they wanted it even faster.
So they're trying to hack.
Oh yeah,
an already hacked product.
I mean, like sometimes you don't have a bottle of water handy, and you actually want to get high.
Okay.
So we listened to the people, and we created. We like to call it an adult pixie stick, but our quick sticks, they're flavored. And they're intended to go right on your tongue. Same great predictability, same great technology, same fast-acting qualities, just flavored. School. This goes right on your tongue.
Yeah.
So what exactly is the difference between the two?
Just the flavor.
The flavoring. That's it. Yeah.
I know off camera we're talking too that you guys have a food scientist specifically on payroll.
Shout out to Keith.
Multiple. Shout out to Keith. Shout out to Petros.
What process did they have in converting that into the pixie stick, if any?
So it's a fun process. Like when we do flavor development, we let the food scientists run a bit. It's like, show us what you can do well, because this is a new, developing with THC, developing with CBD. Like this is all new. It's not like anybody took a class on how to develop with this, and every like ingredient that people develop with is different. Caffeine is actually a really tough ingredient to develop with. It's incredibly bitter. In fact, like up until CBD, it was the most bitter substance that any of our food scientists had encountered. Really? So then you've got caffeine. Like it's used as a standard for bitter. Like that is, so yeah, there's been a lot of flavor work that's gone around masking the bitterness in caffeine without changing the label or doing things that you don't really want to do. So with THC and CBD, you got to find flavors that work with and complement the natural aspects of the product. And like THC is different from CBD, is different from CBN. Like you got to sort of take it as it is and work with it. So our food scientists will come up with a bunch of different flavors, and we'll see like what is the best execution, what fits in the right market space. Like, mixed berry, crowd favorite, classic lemonade, crowd favorite flavor, like a lemon lime.
We talked also a little bit about efficiency and efficacy.
Yeah.
And how that's a really important component of the design of you all's products. What's happening in the food science lab over at Ripple to ensure these fast-acting products, these products that can be placed directly on the tongue? You guys are really innovating in the space. Speak more about how the food science aspect, some Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory type business.
It's both. Like, so, Rachel was talking about like our facilities. This is what's unique about THC and what's unique about edibles. It's pharma meets food. It is function. It is not just flavor. Like most food science is about flavor. It's about stability. It's about shelf life. It's about how do I maintain potency for whatever I'm trying to deliver, whether it's omega-3 or whatever over time. THC is different. It's about actually how do I get this into the bloodstream as quickly as possible, and how do I make sure as much of it gets into the bloodstream as possible? Like you don't want to be paying for something when you're pissing out 90% of it. Like you want that into your blood. And THC alone is actually very poorly absorbed. So not as badly as CBD. CBD is like among the worst absorbed substances we've seen. You need to do a lot of work to get that absorbed. So, but like with THC, everybody knows about the brownie experience. You have one, nothing happens. You have 2 hours later, you're on the moon.
Yeah, it's like what you said about your grandma. You had to dose her out. You
Exactly.
had to chop it up.
So like when we saw this, we're like, when we were developing our product, we weren't actually thinking about that. We were first just thinking about how do we make this fat-free. That was the key thing. We wanted it to be fat-free because we thought that it should be something.
A lot of brownies, a lot of sweet products, right, in the market when you guys.
There's a lot of. They put that sugar in to cover
THC
up the THC flavor and the fat because THC bonds to it, so you can just make canna butter and go with it. Like you can do that on the stovetop. But we wanted a product that people can consume every day. And it's not like you're going to go take your vitamins and your daily brownie or your daily cookie. Like you needed something that was actually more functional and fit into people's life. So that was where we started with water soluble. And then this funny thing happened where people started telling us, like, it's weird, man. Like, I'm drinking your tea and I'm feeling high before I'm done with a cup of tea. And we're like, that's fascinating. That's new.
So wait, it didn't start with ensuring that the product was fast acting.
No.
It started with ensuring that the product was fat free.
And consistent.
And the fast acting was
a byproduct?
Yes, was a byproduct.
That's dope.
All great innovations is accidental, man. Like this was, so when we heard that, and this is another thing that made our company different. I think a lot of companies would have gotten that report and like they would have then gone out and like fed it to 5 bartenders and just been like, are you high yet? Are you high yet? Are you high yet? And then been like, okay, they said they're high in 15 minutes. It's fast acting, which is basically how most of this reporting works these days. We saw that and we're like, well, shit, if it's not in the blood, nobody can feel it. So like, let's see if it's in the blood. And we actually hired, this is back in 2018, we did the first, it's called a pharmacokinetic study, where we hired a phlebotomist, that's a person who like sticks in the IVs, and we basically set people up around my kitchen table. And just 5 employees. This was not meant to be like a published study. It was just meant to understand some shit. And we stuck needles in their arms and took blood draws every 15 minutes after we fed them our product. And just we're seeing like, what is the THC level in their blood? What does this curve look like?
15, after 30,
after 30, after 45. Yeah, and we saw like, we had known because previous research had been done on brownies and like traditional edibles or hash. And like, you knew that it peaked at like 2.5 hours. Right. And you could see that. And we saw a totally different curve. We saw a curve that was peaking more like 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. And that was when we started realizing like, hey, there is actually work that can be done here. We can change the experience of how people have with edibles.
And what were you trying to do? Like, once you realized what the curve looked like, then what was the goal after that? So
at first the goal was just shifting it towards zero. Because we thought from a product perspective, like you only get credit for experiences that happen in the first hour. Like nobody drinks coffee in the morning to wake up in the afternoon. You need it to be like alcohol. You need it right away, or caffeine. Like you need fast. Like it's not a matter of like racing to 2 minutes, 1 minute, 0. Within 10 minutes is fine. Like you just need it to be something that is on a schedule that people can rely on. It's predictable. And that was the first thing. Was how do we just shift this curve to the left so that people are feeling it in the time that they expect it. So it's not a surprise when it sneaks up on them. Like, you want to take a Ripple on your way into the movie theater and have it hitting you by the time the previews are done. Right. You don't want it hitting you when the movie is letting out. Right. That's not going to work.
Or even halfway through.
Like, you don't want to spend that time not enjoying it.
It's got to hit different.
Yeah, it's got to hit different.
So, you guys listen to Wu-Tang?
Not since high school.
No?
To Wu-Tang?
Yeah.
Not since high school.
Oh, okay, I got you. Well, we're about to talk about that cream real quick.
Okay. Let's do it.
So how does a company like Ripple make money? Like, what? Break it down for us.
Selling products at high margin. Like we're unique in this industry, I think, in that we believe in owning the manufacturing. So like our production facility here in Michigan, we built like this. We own it from the ground up. We didn't license our technology to somebody. Like quality is everything. I think like you and I were talking about this earlier. Like in the last 20 years, this whole Shopify economy has come up where everybody just buys something on AliExpress, slaps a logo on it, and they're like, I got a brand. Yeah.
And this is the era of the middleman, man. I'll tell you what.
We talk about this all the time.
Yeah. It's hustle. Like, look, I'm not going to knock it too much. I'm just going to say though that like THC is not a developed marketplace. It's not something where like the supply chain has been built to the point where it's a commodity that you can just slap a brand on, unless you're going to do like, a gummy that's just basic tincture. Right. like
Or a
dropped in
vape,
there, or a vape, or like
yeah.
something, or a flower. Like,
Pre-roll.
Is the bulk of your profitability based in dispensaries, or is it based in direct to consumer sales? Do you do any of
all
that?
dispensaries. We have a CBD side that does direct to consumer, but like on the THC side, it's all dispensaries. And look, we love the dispensary sales channel. Like it's kind of a gift. You know, on the one hand, it's not like alcohol where you can't walk down the street without passing 5 points of sale for alcohol. You know, THC is harder. Like, you know, we can talk about like 3 stores in a row in THC. There's only 500 in the state. Like there are tens of thousands of alcohol purchase points in the States. So you've got a constrained universe and you can really build a relationship with all of them. And Rachel really has.
You don't have to be direct with the numbers. A ballpark is fine, but you guys have some great growth. Starting in 2016 is now 2022, heading into 2023. You've got 75 employees. You're in 100. Is it 160 stores in Michigan?
Yep, a little over
And then
160
about
shops.
500 between the two.
We got about shops in Colorado, which
So
is about
400.
80-85% of all the shops, and Rachel's gotten us into 160 here in 2.5 months.
And then
2.5 months,
Yeah.
160 stores.
Yeah, we launched, our first orders went out end of March, and actually 87% of the shops that ordered with us also reordered in April as well as May. So we did see month over month.
and this is how you go
Yeah,
from
it's not a product we're giving away either. People are buying it and rebuying it.
Straight
We've got a
up.
cold product.
And this is how you, because in Colorado, you said you're the most purchased non-gummy SKU in the entire state.
Yep,
How
since
long did it
2017.
So
So y'all been running it for years. This ain't.
Look, there's 2 ways
You
to
got
build.
to pull out the OG hat again. And when we talk about this,
from the second year of your inception, you've been killing the market.
Look, in my philosophy, there's like 2 ways to build a company. And like the traditional way has been from the outside in, like market the shit out of it, then figure out whether you can build the thing you are marketing. That's, I think we've all seen a lot of companies do that. They become ubiquitous, like they're everywhere, and then they flame out because it turns out their product is exactly the same. Like we've all seen the vape companies.
there's no differentiation.
There's no differentiation. Like you can sell people on the idea of differentiation for a while,
Right.
until like they run out of that vape at a party and try their friends, and they're like, "Holy shit, this is the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
Why am I paying twice the price?" Like that doesn't work. So the other way is you can actually build a product that's different, that does exactly what it says it does, and then you build up through word of mouth. That's where we've built.
Do you find the revenues change between the different markets of Colorado and Michigan?
I mean, the revenue growth in Colorado is fantastic, especially pre-COVID. Like we saw that scale up really quickly. Ripple owns its category in powder. And like we've been really proud of the fact, like it's not just that you make a formulation on a tabletop. Like we own a manufacturing process. There's a difference between building a concept car and building a facility that makes that concept car the exact same way 100 cars. We really think the true innovation is how do you take the thing that you've discovered people want and make it the exact same every single time and at a price that can work for everybody, at a cost that works for everybody.
Between.
I was going to say, it hasn't been super easy in Michigan because not only are we a new brand and product, we're essentially a whole new category, right? So when we entered the market, there still is a ton of education that's needed, not just for shops and bud tenders, but for the end consumer, right? There's still some mysticism about the product as a whole.
It's new. Nobody's
So
walking
it's
into a
What
shop
a
asking
ton
for
of
powder.
education.
What
A
kind
ton
of
of
education?
education.
Yeah, people are walking into shops asking for God
For
bless it.
7 for 100 vapes, right?
7 for
They're-
100 vapes, gummies. What do you got for cheap?
like
nobody's walking in asking for dissolvable powder because nobody knows to ask for dissolvable powder.
You know what's striking me is I haven't been conversing with you all and also researching the company before we sat down. Is I'm wondering if it's even fair to call you all a cannabis company, and if a more accurate description of who Ripple is maybe a tech company or a scientific company of some sort.
We're a science first company, man. And like I always like to say, every company that's forward leaning is a tech company. Like technology, it doesn't have to be software. That's a narrow category of tech. Like this food science, like we have the
we
most
need to
exciting
expand our
job in
definition
food
of what
science.
tech is.
Yeah, like there's all tech involved here. Like there's a lot of engineering, there's a lot of process, there's a lot of chemistry, there's a lot of there's a lot of packaging, all of these things, and figuring that out. That's all tech, and like thinking about what tools you're going to use to create new things. That's tech to me. Like technology is just Latin for tool. Like that is you're building new tools.
Absolutely.
That's
So-
what we think.
I'm going to ask you questions here.
Okay.
Lighten it up.
What can totally impress you?
What can totally impress me?
Yeah.
People who do what they say.
Is regular exercise important to you?
Are you talking to me or to her? Because to me,
It's
it's
all
going to
you.
be.
This is rapid fire.
Oh no,
Have you ever been in a mosh pit before?
intentionally.
How so?
I got shoved into one and then got shoved further into one.
Where were you at? A concert?
I was at a
Mustard plug?
concert.
Who are you listening to?
Who was that mosh pit? I don't know. It was at Pine Knob. It was in
Okay.
high school at Pine Knob, and I don't even remember. Like a Pine Knob mosh pit's not
Do-
going to be that hardcore.
Like 311.
It was probably 311.
Have you? Do you?
Are they still together?
They are still.
They are.
Dude, would you have ever guessed that Green Day was going to be the band that came out of that era?
No.
It's amazing.
I love it.
Do you have any nicknames?
Me?
Yeah.
I do not.
Okay.
Do you, Rachel?
Yeah,
What's your
two.
nickname?
I have Cray Ray and Ray Ray.
Don't
Ray
forget
Ray
Ripple
and
Rachel.
Ray
And
Ray.
Ripple Rachel. But and
Okay.
actually, as of this weekend, Rachel, instead of Reed, Rachel Weed. I threw a big cannabis party, and they're like,
Whoa.
Rachel Weed.
You
Yeah.
didn't invite
Rachel,
us.
we-
What happened, Rachel? You got to invite us
Oh,
to
I'm
the
having
next
one every month. I got you in July.
All right. Plug
Good
us
to
in.
know. Okay, Rachel. So this one's for you. Why don't you ever see the headline "Psychic Wins Lottery"?
That, you know what? I fuck with psychics. I don't know. I'm one of those suckers.
Have you had success? Like,
You know,
they-
I went to a voodoo priestess when I was in New Orleans, and she rocked my world about a decade ago. I'm still freaked out. I believe in that stuff.
she told you some real
So
shit.
yeah.
Have you ever been to a psychic or?
I have not been to a psychic, although I'm surprised none have called me and asked me to come in. Like, you think they would know how to do that? No, I do believe in graphology. Like the
What's
handwriting.
graphology?
That's the handwriting analysis. I have seen like that. I got my world rocked when I was like 17.
Whoa.
Wait, you said a handwriting what?
I would
Handwriting
like to do
analysis.
You write?
Yeah,
Someone will tell your future?
not your future. They'll
Those
tell
is-
you. They'll tell you your past and who you are.
Really?
Like
But
based
they
on
probably think I'm just batshit crazy.
I don't know.
I
Maybe
write like Led
I don't know.
Zeppelin.
I'm a pretty rational and skeptical guy, but like somebody rocked me on that once, so I like give it some openness that maybe there's something there.
My ex-girlfriend, who you actually know, the guy with, actually, we were doing some business together, and she was a business owner. She owned a restaurant, so you probably know who I'm talking about. But she saw my handwriting, and she began to talk to me about my emotional state based on my signature, and I didn't even respond. I tried to act like she didn't know what the hell she was talking about. She was right as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was right on
We'll
the
have
money.
to
She was
compare signatures.
all
Because
right.
college registrar, like she literally said the same thing. She's like, "This looks like a Led Zeppelin. Like, are you okay?" Like,
See, like I had this woman looked at my like had me write 3 lines and looked at it was like, "Huh, you're an agnostic, aren't you?" And I was like, "Whoa." Like, where? First of all, where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah, that's a pretty
I'm like,
crazy
that's-
conclusion to
that's
draw from
definitely-
Yeah, I
someone's
was expecting like, what's your
That's crazy.
emotional state? Like something that's like,
Yeah.
I was like, that's a leap. I was like, okay, like,
can't
sure.
tell your grandma that.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
She won't mind.
Okay.
Okay, couple more.
These are fun.
How do people get discombobulated? And have you ever seen someone who was combobulated?
Oh, I'm gonna chat on my wife right here because this is her favorite story about her father. Was the only time she's seen him coming out of surgery when he had some major surgery like a decade ago, and she loves telling the story that all he was saying was, "I feel so discombobulated," and like this man is like a great attorney, and like she like gives him so much shit about like, of course you would say on your way out of
out of
this.
surgery.
Yeah.
That was the first
Drugged
thing.
up.
That was the only word he could think of. I am so discombobulated.
How many letters are in the word discombobulated? That
I don't know
seems
if I
like a
could even
particularly
spell it. If you
long
were to say I'll give you
word.
$1 million, if you can spell it, I couldn't spell it.
Have you been though?
12.
I like being discombobulated.
Yeah.
I don't know any combobulated people in my network.
He said I like
Is
this.
combobulated even a word?
It
a
is
great
now.
question. It is now.
Because if dis, doesn't that imply that there is a
You would think. I'm
These
sure
are things that keep me up at
We-
night.
but
Like,
the
you know,
English language is
Grey
so-
Goose
I mean, like
vodka.
flammable, inflammable,
It's
like
tough.
being civil is like.
I've had some very, very deep Scrabble arguments.
Oh
On
yeah,
this
man.
very,
Scrabble
very
gets you
thing.
into it.
Yeah. Scrabble.
What makes it a word?
What makes it a word? Now, my favorite kind of word is contronyms. Have you heard of this?
Contronyms?
Have you heard of a contronym?
No, I'm an English major and I've never
Dude,
heard of a contronym.
It's the coolest word. It's the coolest category of words. Contronyms are words that can mean both themselves and their opposite.
What's
So,
an
like,
Give us an
example?
example.
Cleave.
What's an example?
Cleave.
Cleave.
Cleave can mean to separate or to combine.
That's a good one. Okay.
That seems like a pretty narrow category of words.
There's probably like
That
10
you
words.
can't include Urban Dictionary terms.
Only-
because
only
there's
10
too many
words.
that are like
Yeah.
Yeah, Urban Dictionary.
that's
doesn't
that's
count.
set.
What-
Yeah.
Oh, that's
What's the best way to travel?
Best what?
Best way to travel.
Best way to travel? By train.
I fuck
by
with
train.
trains.
Yeah. I love train
In
travel.
America?
Not in America.
I like driving.
Not although
Amtrak.
I've taken
Shout out to
Amtrak to
Amtrak.
like DC to New York and taken like it's not as bad as people make it out to be,
No.
but it's definitely not as good as Europe. Like,
No, that's what I was gonna say. American. I prefer train travel in America over air travel in America.
yeah, I mean,
Like it's less bullshit you got to go through. It's longer,
Yeah,
but
it's a little,
it
it's a
feels
little
like
rashier.
feels like pre 9/11 air travel.
it does.
Yeah.
Like that's
It's like really good.
if you want to date us like kids these days. Like you used to be able to go to the gate to see people off and to
When I was a
people came
kid,
back.
my grandmother used to take me to the airport. We lived near the airport growing up. I'm from Alabama,
Yeah.
and it was a treat. She was like, she country. She was like, Brandon, you want to go see the airplane instead of the airplane? She was like, let's go see the airplanes. And we would walk into the airport all the way up to the gate at the terminal and literally stand at the window and watch planes.
It's like a
take off.
thing. It's like an
That's
outing.
awesome.
Yeah, those days are over.
So before we wrap up here, why don't you guys give us some last messages on Ripple for the guests at home? Let them know what's the best way to get down. You guys are at 160 stores in Michigan.
Yeah.
Probably not too hard to find.
Yeah, what's the daily take? If y'all had to give us the real take on the daily take on Ripple, what would it be?
What do you mean the daily take? Just the overall on it?
I got something that's top of mind.
Go for it.
We are hiring a salesperson
Hey.
in West
Hey.
Michigan, guys. So right now, that is top of mind. We are expanding our team. So if you know of anyone in West Michigan that is looking for a sales manager position, no, but yeah, we're in over 160 shops. A lot of the big chains that we all know and love: House of Dank, Joyology, Jars. Quality
What's the
Roots.
West Michigan territory?
West Michigan territory is Lansing, Battle Creek, Kalamazoo, Portage, that triangle.
What's your email so that people can
My
yeah,
email
everybody wanna
is
get in touch.
Rachel, Rachel .reed, REED, at tryripple.com,
AKA Cray Ray.
aka Cray.
we'll make that alias.
And there you have it. That has been the Daily Take on the Take Detroit Network. I'm one of your hosts, Godwin, along with Brandon. And we have just interviewed Justin and Rachel. Check them out. Ripple THC Fast Acting. Until next time.
You can sprinkle it on your.
Good night.
Thank you